For the first time in Cinephellas history, I'm about to review something on the Lifetime Network. Say what? What's going on, friends? Logan Myerz here for Cinephellas.com to talk about a movie that was just released on the Lifetime Network, A Tale of Two Coreys. Yes! I'm a huge fan of the two Coreys, Haim and Corey Feldman. They're big sensations in the 80s, early 90s, with films such as Dream a Little Dream, License to Drive, and my favorite, as you all know, The Lost Boys. Really the first film they were on screen together. Really interested to see this movie. That may sound sad, and I'll probably get a lot of shit for this, but really excited for this film to see the story of these two actors and how they started and where they ended up. I actually met both of these actors on separate occasions. I met Corey Haim back in 2006 at Horror Hound convention, I believe it was. Yeah, it's 12 years ago. It's a long time. Met him. It's sad that he passed away in 2010. Corey Haim was such a beautiful heart. He had a lot of soul, a lot of heart. He cared for people, but, meeting him, you could see in his eyes that something was missing. Something was off with him. He was walking around with headphones in his ears that weren't plugged into anything. So me and Henry Hill from Cinephellas, we hung out with him, talked outside for a little bit, and he was just a really, really great human being, and terrible that he passed away in 2010 due to pneumonia. And I met Corey Feldman at a Lost Boys screening movie theater in the Chicagoland area, I think in 2008, and he was a fucking weirdo. I have to admit it, he was. He reminded me of Michael Jackson. Very small. I'm a short guy, but he was smaller than I was. Pale, he had long black hair and sunglasses on. I'll post some pictures here. Meeting him, and it was like 2 seconds. I'm like, hey, Corey, I'm a huge fan. I love the Goonies, blah, blah, blah. Hey, thanks, man. Next person in line. I'm like, really? Waited 2 hours for 2 seconds for this? Come on. Feldman, get your shit together. But A Tale of Two Coreys shows the story and tells the story of how these young actors started in Hollywood, how they got their big break, and the downfall and the dark sides of Hollywood and what they came across, with being molested and drug abuse and being basically having to go to rehab and trying to find their careers again. And Elijah Marcona plays the young Corey Feldman, and he actually looks like him. He kind of looked like a young John Cusack. And then we have Justin Ellings playing Corey Haim, a young Corey Haim, which again actually looks like a young Corey Haim. So they did some really great casting here. They show how they all started out with Corey Feldman in the Goonies and getting his big break in his really shitty life at home. His mom was really hard on him, making sure he didn't eat junk food, and his face is very important because he was the one that paid the bills. His mom was kind of a trash and alcoholic and was always out and didn't really care about him, just making sure that her son got the job done and paid the bills. As a young 12, 13-year-old, you don't think about paying bills. And then you see Corey Haim in Canada. He got his big break with the Lucasfilm, which is a great film if you guys have not seen it. And that was his big break, and he ended up moving to LA to start his career with his family. With Lifetime, they're known for B and C actors, a lot of wash-ups from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and films on this network. But, this one was not that bad. I went in with really low expectations from the get-go, and it was not bad. The young actors portraying Corey's did a great job, with the script they were given. And Corey Feldman is just depressed. He's an outcast at school because he's shooting movies, and all the bullies at school don't care for him and trying to beat the shit out of him, and he's, contemplating suicide, putting a gun in his mouth, things like that. And he gets a call from old Corey Haim, a guy he's never met, but an actor with the same name, and they talk on the phone, they meet up, and it's just like super homoerotic beach scene where they're throwing the football around with their dads, and they're like hugging and stuff like that. It reminded me a lot of Henry and I when we were younger, the homoerotic scene on the beach, throwing the football around. So I can really relate to that scene in a weird, funny way. So as you see the actors, they meet up, they ultimately become best friends. They really get each other. They have a lot in common, not just having the same name, but same past with their families and really putting bread on the table because their actors and their families are trying to get them their big breaks and pushing them to be better actors. So early on, they're thrown into a lot. They're in these movies, Feldman's in the Goonies, Haim's and Lucas, and then they get the the role in Lost Boys, and they start to see the dark sides of Hollywood with, producers and execs and things like that in the movie studios that are taking advantage of these little kids and becoming part of the boys club, which is basically these executives and producers molesting Haim and Corey Feldman. It's part of the business. Not really. That's a fucked up situation, for kids of this age. I couldn't imagine going through that at this age, and no wonder they turned out the way they did because of what they were thrown into at a young age. It starts off, with pot, and then they get more into coke and pills, and just the downward spiral of these two actors in Hollywood. They're shooting movies at night, they're partying all night, they're going to set the next day, they look like shit, looks like they've been partying all night and doing a bunch of drugs, and eventually people on set, other actors, one being Carrie Fisher, talking to Corey Feldman's like, you need to get your shit together because you're going to hit rock bottom. You don't want to hit rock bottom. It's not worth it. You need to focus on your acting and your career and don't look at the other sides of this business. And these kids were on the top of the world at this time in the 80s, late 80s. They're on Tiger Beat magazine, all the heartthrob magazines. They were the go-to guys, and girls loved them, guys loved them, and they're really talented young actors. The second, third act is when they're older, they're out of rehab, they're in their 20s, 30s, and the actors that played them didn't really look like them, but whatever. I'll get past that, but the really best parts of the movie were the beginning when they were teenagers. Pretty much up until the end of the film, they see how these two actors, been through a lot throughout their lives of 20, 30 years, and everything they've been through and the things they've seen, the things they're put through as young children, as being molested and fall into the dark sides of Hollywood and the movie business. Up until the end of the movie, it kind of goes full circle to the beginning when they first met, and honestly a really good ending to the movie. Seeing them as adults and going back to the place where they first met, and their relationship started as best friends. And there was definitely some 80s cameos in this movie. We had Keith Coogan that played the Corey's chaperone. You guys may know him from Adventures in Babysitting. He was in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dad. He played Kenny. Dishes are done, man. And we also, we have Jamison Newlander, which was one of the Frog Brothers from the Lost Boys. He played a cop in this movie. I don't think anybody noticed but me because I'm a huge Lost Boys fan, but it was cool that he was in this. For what it is, I really like the acting, especially the young Coreys as teenagers. The writing was pretty good. And overall, it was just a really good message in finding out what happened to these kids over their life and how it really affected them into their adulthood, with alcoholism, drug abuse, and, going to rehab and ODing and things like that. It was a really great story, and I highly recommend it to anyone that's a huge fan of the Coreys like myself, huge fan of the 80s. This is a great story, and really well done for this Lifetime Network. Notice I'm laughing. But, one of the few movies that I've liked on Lifetime. Most of the time they're pretty shitty, so that's saying a lot. Overall, I'm going to give A Tale of Two Coreys a 3 out of 5 80s frosted hair pieces. So what did you guys think? Did you guys actually check out A Tale of Two Coreys on Lifetime Network? Are you guys fans of Haim and Corey Feldman? Did you grow up in their movies like I did? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myerz signing out from the Hollywood Hills. Until next time, cheers!